Why does Brandon Aiyuk want to go to the Steelers so bad? We know that the Patriots offered him $32 million a year, and he turned him down. He doesn't want to go there. He seems to kind of want off the 49ers as well, unless they pay him a lot of money. He wanted to go to Washington. His friend is the quarterback there. Why do you think Pittsburgh's so attractive to him?
Simply put, Mike Tomlin. He respects the man. I think that in a lot of ways, Mike Tomlin and Kyle Shanahan's careers are congruent. You look at Mike Tomlin being Kyle Shanahan. Let's just go with Kyle Shanahan being one of the youngest coaches to be a head coach in the National Football League, who actually found early success as a coordinator. And one of the earliest wonderkins in the NFL was Mike Tomlin, getting hired early on with the Pittsburgh Steelers. You also look at both of them by trade. Mike Tomlin was a wide receiver. I know he's known for being a defensive guy, but people don't know that Mike Tomlin played wide receiver in college. Another thing is that one thing that Kyle is known to do is kill the regular season. There's nobody that's been more consistent in making sure that you have a good regular season than Mike Tomlin. And also, you have to look at just how Mike Tomlin actually started his career, where he started young and he actually sealed the deal. He has a Super Bowl. So he wants to be able to be ingratiated with the Super Bowl winning coach. And then lastly, you have to look at the bedside manner, just the actual guy, the man. Mike Tomlin is known to be a straight talker. There's no fluff. And he seems to always know how to ingratiate himself with the players that are around him, but from a man standpoint, and gets the best out of them. I think that he just feels as though that he gets a little bit of smoke and mirrors on this side, and he wants more of a succinct relationship with Mike Tomlin.
Doesn't it feel like the relationship between Kyle and Aiyuk has been strained since the beginning? Like they're just kind of like oil and water. I don't know. Maybe they're just not compatible the way Debo and Kyle are. But it seems like Aiyuk was super compatible in college with Herm Edwards. And I don't know if there's a connection between Herm Edwards and Mike Tomlin, but maybe Aiyuk sees them as similar styles of leaders.
Well, one thing that I can tell you is that with Coach Tomlin, he's gonna actually push Brandon from a standpoint where, Grant, I got to be honest, man. Here it is. There's a trust between a pupil and a coach, okay? And in that trust, you as a pupil, there are times where you test your coach, where it's like, look, man, if you're going to tell me to do X, Y, Z, then you need to reward me for that because that's what you told me to do. And I feel like there are a lot of times where Kyle probably leveled with Brandon and said, look, my man, if you buy in, if you block, if you do exactly what I'm telling you to do, if you understand this doghouse process, then you know what? There's going to be something for you on the other side of this. And I think Brandon has looked at his maturation process with the 49ers and congruently looked at other guys like a Debo or a George or a Fred or a Dre and said to himself, like, I didn't have to go through. I went through way more than these guys had to go through in order to make myself a household name on this team. And now when it's time to finally actually get paid, I think that Brandon is, I don't think he's one of the first people to notice this, but I think Brandon is one of the first people to out it. It's not Pittsurgh. This is like Kyle really is final say. Like the whole, well, we always are strapped off with Pittsurgh because once the money happens, then there's this, we go behind this cloud and, this door gets shut and John has nothing to do with it. Kyle has nothing to do with it. I think that this process has kind of outed that to be complete BS. It's always been Kyle. And he knows that.
And you think of Kyle, or maybe some people think of Kyle as a player's coach, but I think the players who really love him are the players he's gotten rich, and that's not every player. And there's a large group of players who maybe aren't, and who maybe don't think Kyle's a player's coach. Jimmy Ward, Brandon Aiyuk, Trey Lance, got a lot of guys. And then they end up going to teams, if they have a choice, who have a real player's coach, D'Amico Ryans, Mike Tomlin. Interesting thing to know. I want to talk about why the Steelers want Aiyuk. Because the Steelers generally don't trade for wide receivers. They draft and develop. But their draft and develop, I mean, like, can we go back? Like, George Pickens doesn't block. Deontay Johnson just got ran out of town, was a malcontent. Same with Chase Claypool, who was supposed to be this great young player, didn't work out. Mm-hmm. And now you got Brandon Aiyuk, who is portrayed as a malcontent here. But on the Steelers, he'd be the most professional, the hardest working, the best blocker. He would be the example.
He would be. Look, this is one thing that I see happening right now. The Steelers want this to happen because in their mind, Brandon Aiyuk is a Steeler. He's the real deal. He's a guy that doesn't care about the fanfare. He wants his reps. He's going to come in. Come on, man. We already heard about BA. This is when Debo was wilding. Brandon was coming first one here, last one out. All right, this is before Diamador Lenore was a household name or even like an up-and-coming player. Like Brandon Aiyuk, put him under his wing, man. Like Brandon Aiyuk has basically came through the hardest way you can to be a star on this offense, on this team, really. And I think that he's ready to ascend and assert himself. And I think that his role here with the Niners, they better expand his role. That's the biggest thing. Like, this is what it's really all about. It's about expanding his role. Like
it's not just about that, though. It's about respect.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, yes, we're talking about this.
Because respect is so much more than that, though, right? Like on the Niners, they look at him as like an immature problem child. Like, dude, you just don't get it. You think it's all about you. You're replaceable. We made you. You're not Debo. Like on the Steelers are like, man, Brandon, can you come set the culture for us?
Yeah.
Can you come be the grown up here for us? Like that's a whole different level of respect.
How about this, Grant? Can you imagine the difference in conversations? And we know this has happened. Let's stop. Can you imagine the difference in conversations of how Mike Tomlin is talking to Brandon versus how Kyle is talking to Brandon? Correct. And what he's noticing, like, bro, you're like, dude, the only way I will stay here is for the money. Like I've been exposed to a whole different brand of coach. And not only that though, but Brandon came from Herm Edwards.
Yeah.
Like
I'm telling you, Kyle and Brandon are oil and water. They're not compatible. They're divorced.
They're not. You know what this is?
The paperwork has been signed.
We've seen this. You know where we saw this? Jimmy Ward and Kyle. We've seen this where it was like
Jimmy was just a little bit older and a little bit more. Didn't have as much juice as Brandon. Brandon's not being as diplomatic.
Yeah, and we saw where Jimmy wasn't buying Kyle's brand. Like, I'm not buying your brand, bro. You don't have me fooled.